Do you know what a health coach is? Do you think you need one? Well, I did. 10 years ago, I got West Nile virus. Those doctors had me on 15 prescription medications. Today's guest, well, she literally saved my life through diet, exercise, and mindset.
Nutrition and exercise are really important for, getting healthy. But I found that mindset is the most important thing.
It is so important. And, we're starting this year's podcast off in beautiful Florida. And I have to tell you, it just makes my mindset so happy.
So how is everybody doing with those New Year's resolutions? If you need help, listen to our last episode where Kimberly Crossland of Roadpreneur talks about how to set your goals and how to keep them throughout 2023. That horn means it's time for today's fun fact. And today we're talking about how many Americans meditate.
Now, I did a lot of research on this, and so these numbers are kind of rounded off and averages. But today, about 14% of Americans have tried to meditate.
Wow, that is a relatively small number, and that's about 36 million people, which is a big number, but I would expect it to be higher.
Now, you say that's a relatively small number. If we take a look at India, their number is actually double that. 38% of the people that live in India meditate. Now, Portugal won the world with 40%, and Finland comes in right in between those two at 39%.
Do you think they know something we don't know?
I don't know. I know that I meditate almost every day as well as you.
Yes, I don't like to go a day without it.
We're going to talk about meditation. We're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about things you can eat when you stop at a gas station or truck stop right after this.
Selling your RV after years of enjoying it should not be painful. Whether you're upgrading, downsizing, or simply ready to sell, the experts at National Vehicle will help you set a proper valuation for your RV, list it, and sell it when you are ready. An RV valuation is always free at National Vehicle. Get started today by visiting nationalvehicle.com/RVLife. When it comes to understanding the true value of your RV, reach out to the experts at National Vehicle. Clear 2.0 continues to bring its expanding line of water filtration products to RVers with innovations such as their DirtGuard sediment pre-filter, their 1-micron solid carbon block inline water filter, and a wide variety of high-quality filters for your RV's whole house filter system. When it comes to clean water for your RV life, the answer is clear. Clear 2.0. Visit clear20.com and use the coupon code RVLifePodcast to save an additional 5% on every purchase.
She started her career working with dolphins. Then she found her calling with humans. First as a personal trainer, then a health and life coach. This woman completely changed my life, and she coached me back from an extremely serious injury to the happy and healthy person I am today.
We are talking about Jennifer Tyson, and her company is True Health for You. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Today, we're going to talk to Jennifer about tips that people can use while they're RVing to be healthier, in general, be healthier. But before we get into that, I just want to share the story of how we met Jennifer. She actually showed up in our living room. So,
there's a little bit of backstory.
Yeah,
to
let's
that.
get
There's
the
just
backstory.
a little bit of backstory to that.
Yeah.
Patty and I were actually speaking on social media, and she was one of the attendees. Now, one of the things that Patty and I like to do with our friends and sponsors and that type of thing is after a big event like that, we ask people to come back to our house. So we had, I'm going to say 20, 30 people come back to our house after this event. And I'm sitting on the couch. I sat down next to Jennifer.
We both kind of asked how did she get here? But we are ever so grateful that she did somehow end up at the house. It was at that meeting that she was talking about the fact that she was a health coach and how she works with people. And so one thing led to another, and we started talking to her about some of the health issues. We started talking to her about Dan's health issues, and then, some of mine.
So I'm going to set it up a little more. For those of you on the podcast that do not know the background, I had West Nile virus about 10 years ago, and it caused a lot of problems, a little bit of a heart attack and high blood pressure and a little high cholesterol, all of the fun stuff. And at the time that we met Jen, I was taking 14 prescription medications every single day. And guess what? Jen and I sat on that couch, and I didn't know this woman at the time, but she told me what she could do for me. We moved the conversation to my office. The next thing you know, she's got me laying on my back on the floor, looking at the ceiling, doing eye drills. And I have to tell you, my life is completely different. This isn't just a testimony to Jen and what she does. I'm not on one prescription medication today, not one. I do not have high blood pressure. I do not have high cholesterol. I am doing really, really well. I walk miles a day, and we have just never been happy. So before we get started, thank you, Jen. We just wanted to set the stage of the fact that you are a miracle worker.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and we have to thank you. So let's talk to our audience. I know as over the years, I've used the term health coach, and a lot of people have asked, what is that? So can you explain what a health coach is and, what category you fit in of that?
So a health coach accountability is a huge component of it. So if someone has a goal and they're dealing with some type of health issue, accountability, that's just what we all need, right? So a coach is there to support you through that, keep you focused, and provide you options. Sometimes I'll even call myself an option facilitator because sometimes it can be so overwhelming. You just need to see, your different options. So I provide that, teaching people what are the different ways that they can improve their health, but actually matches their lifestyle, right? Because not everyone fits in a box. So I offer that. And then plus, the educational component, teaching people that they can improve their health on their own, and as well complementing the work that they're doing with their doctor. So it's teaching people that they have options and that they have hope, and they're actually more in control of their life than some realize.
Right. And I love that it's not a one size fits all. So the work that you did with Dan and the things that you allow him to eat and supplements is very different than when you're helping me with getting rid of severe debilitating migraines and the issues, right, getting up in the middle of the night with hot sweats and the issues that you've helped me with. I love that you talked to me and it was personalized for me. But before we get deep into this, I do want to give our audience a little disclaimer. You're not a doctor. So can you just give a little quick disclaimer on the fact that you're not a doctor?
Yeah. So, like you said, I'm not a doctor. I do work with my clients' doctors. So it helps with, there's no confusion involved. I can certainly support the path that you and your doctor have figured out. I'm just a complement, and I'm just a resource. I provide the education and I help you communicate with your doctor about what your goals are.
With any program, whether it be a health coach, a doctor, a fad diet, and we're going to talk a little bit about some fad diets later on. I think it's really, really important to not take one thing that they say and run with that. I had some very serious medical issues, and I either, you sat down and told me, it's like, you either got to be all in and do it the way I'm asking you to do it, or go back to your doctors and do it the way they're asking you to do it. So
Right.
I think talk a little bit about how important it is to not just take a piece of anybody's information, not just yours, anybody's information, and kind of run with that.
Right. Because when it comes to health, there are so many different opinions, teachings, like you said, fad diets, that you can harm yourself if you're just taking little bits and pieces of everywhere. It's our health and our body. You have to look at the big picture. And when we're just taking little bits and pieces of information, it can be dangerous, and you can actually be causing more harm. So that's why I really like to educate my clients on, it doesn't matter what background you are, what your beliefs are, the body does function a certain way, and you do have to have some background on that.
That's great, and great information for any kind of health, exercise, anything, and certainly anything that we might talk about here. But as Dan said in the edification, you work with dolphins. I know you also worked with horses. So why did you go from dolphins and horses to people? Dolphins and horses, they don't talk back. So why what's the story there? Right.
So it's fascinating working with large animals. There's always a healing component, I was a part of that. And I was just always fascinated with connection. But that transition, it came because of my health. I was having health issues. And when I started really educating myself about how the body works, it just was so fascinating. And humans just provide a different challenge, but a very interesting challenge, because now you're going into mindset. You're working with people's fears, their limited beliefs. It was so rewarding working with people through those fears, seeing that mindset shift. It truly, I feel, is my true purpose.
Patty said that animals don't talk back. I've owned horses in my day. I've never really played with dolphins, but you and I have had several conversations about dolphins. Before we get into the people side of it, let's talk a little bit about how the animals let you know that there is something going on, or that they like what you're doing, or that they don't like what you're doing.
So, with animals, they're either going to kick you, they're going to bite you. A lot of it is body language. You feel a disconnect with that connection. Animals are not going to put themselves in an unsafe situation. So, there is a difference compared to working with animals and then working with people. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, and just how the dolphins actually let you know when they needed something or didn't need something.
So, with the dolphins, everything was eye contact, and, they would come up to you, and it was just a look in their eye. And there is that, I guess you can call it a spiritual connection, where you knew if they were afraid, you knew if they wanted more. It was a very intuitive sense working with dolphins. It's very different from working with horses, but you're in the water with them. They can be very gentle. It was fascinating. And, working with people and ailments, they knew who to work with. They knew when to stand off, not to get too close to somebody. It is such an amazing experience.
You talked about a spiritual connection. I think your dogs have a spiritual connection. They know that we're talking about the dolphins that you trained in the past. No, it's okay.
This is real life, in the moment, and the dog wants to be part of the conversation. So, yeah, he wants to be part. So we talked a little bit, and let's get into, first of all, the word diet, and you talk about mindset. Well, when you and I sat down together, and in my mind, I was thinking diet, to me, that was, I can't eat this, I can't do this, I have to exercise till I'm out of breath and sore. So that's all the kind of belief system I've had in the past. But that's not really the way that you worked with me on things. So can you just explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I take on a client, really getting to know them, understanding their history plays a huge role actually in their success with accomplishing their health goal. So like you said, if someone has been injured and now here I am asking them to maybe lift weights or walk more or really asking them to take on a new lifestyle, if you're dealing with someone with a traumatic background or has any type of fear there, it can be a challenge. So throughout the years, I've really had to learn how to guide people, but without creating resistance. What my biggest message I want people to understand is that it's okay to work at your own pace. Unfortunately nowadays, our society, they put a lot of stress on willpower. And, if you don't force yourself out of your comfort zone, then for whatever reason, you're weak, right? And that type of mindset, yes, you can achieve your goals, but it's not sustainable because you're going against who you really are. And that can be incredibly exhausting and stressful. And when you're trying to work on a health issue, or if you're in pain, or if you're just trying to bring in healthier habits, it's not fun when we're doing anything under force or guilt or shame. So for your listeners and for my clients, I want them to understand that it's okay to go at your own pace. Really listen to your intuition. So if your gut is telling you, you know what, I know my plan is that I needed to work out today, but I'm exhausted, just making that decision that you're not going to overtrain or train yourself that day, maybe just do it the next day. When we take that pressure off, we actually get rid of a lot of stress that we're holding into our body. And just that in ourselves, when we take off that pressure, your health can improve just by really not even doing anything. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does make sense. And, you and I went through, let's say that first year where we talked a lot. I was actually surprised that the program to get me out of discomfort, pain, lose a little bit of weight and get off all of these medications and just improve my overall health. I think more than 50% of what we did was mindset. And I think that mindset is really, really important in the overall structure. But the next thing that we did, which to this day, I do these every single day, is the neuro stuff, like the eye drills. And I thought, you're going to help me lose weight and get off medication by doing eye drills? But guess what? It did, and you did.
Yeah. So the neuro drills that you're talking about, so when I'm working with your eyes, or let's say your balance, I'm engaging your nervous system. And I know a lot of you out there know that when you're working with the nervous system, I'm also working with like the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. I can calm your blood pressure by just stimulating different parts of your brain. And that might sound daunting and overwhelming, but it's actually quite easy. A lot of people, they do things like, I love weighted blankets. Maybe they like a soft touch. Maybe they like a lot of light or a lot of stimulus. Some people need dark rooms. They like quiet. All of that is communicating to your nervous system, which also you are communicating to different parts of your body as well. So, when people are trying to lose weight, their body is already in a stressed state, right? Because they're now dealing with inflammation, because excess weight brings on inflammation. It brings on lower thyroid function, different things like that. So when I work with the nervous system, I'm just calming your body so it can basically just feel relief. And that facilitates and brings on opportunities for your body to feel safe enough to want to lose weight. So everything is gentle. It's a process, and nothing has to be forced.
These are the things that over time, Dan and I had to learn. I remember asking a lot of questions, and there was a lot of, explaining. You even drew things out for me so I understood. But here's what I'd love. After we take this break, the reason we brought you on for our listeners is so you could give them some tips that most people are going to be able to use. So we're going to get to those tips right after this break. When traveling in your RV, how do you navigate? Do you use a paper map, a GPS, or do you use Google Maps? Our sponsor, RV Trip Wizard, has the solution, and it just works.
It just works. That is just so important to what we're talking about today and RV Trip Wizard. If you don't have it, go down to the show notes, take a look. It's 25% off. It's less than $50 a year for that first year. You definitely want to check it out if you own an RV. Now, I want to talk about It Just Works. If we're losing some of you talking about all of this stuff like eye drills and thyroids and all of that kind of stuff, let me tell you, I am a living testimony to the fact that what this woman is saying just works. I mean, it just works. So now let's get into some things that people can do now. Now, mind you that we have two kinds of listeners. Our first kind of listener is somebody that's full-time like Patty and I. We're out on the road all the time. We cook, we live, we eat, we drink, we breathe, all in our RV. And then there's the kind of people that go out for a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time, or they just go out on the weekends. So they're cooking out in a different atmosphere once a week. So let's start with that kind of stuff. What are some of the things that we should be looking for in our meals as we prepare?
Okay, so, I absolutely respect and love and admire your lifestyle. So anything that can keep you doing this lifestyle for as long as possible, I definitely want to support that. And to do that, you want to think, okay, what does my body need? And it needs protein, carbs, and fat. So every time you eat something, just ask yourself, okay, is this a good source of protein? What's easy on the road? So things like, beef jerky, cheese, crackers, fruit, doing things like apples, bananas, oranges, because I know that, you guys can't just stop what you're doing and create a meal a lot of times. It needs to be easy, right? So I also, if someone loves milk is wonderful. You're getting sugar, fat, and protein just from that. And you can just sip on that throughout the day. Let
me jump in right there real quick.
Yeah.
You once said to me that milk is one of the most perfect foods for humans. And my loving wife next to me here, she used to say, oh, you're drinking too much milk. And you came into my life and said, you can have as much milk as you want.
and here's where it's a belief system, and it's very different than what we've been told over time. And that is not somebody drinking as much milk as they'd like is not for everyone. So yeah,
right.
Some of the things were definitely a change in mindset. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, I'm not going to dive down that, but I was someone that wasn't able to drink milk. But when you learn what the real issue is of why some people might have issues digesting milk, it's actually an easy fix. But there are those who love it. So if you can drink milk. You could do something like rice milk, as an alternative. But making sure that when you are eating something, make it count. Let it be good quality food, because this is actually going to help your endurance levels. Because I've never done the miles that you guys have. I think at most I have driven 16 hours. And I mean, that was draining. And I wish I knew then what I know now. I would have had, my juice, make sure you have things like water and having fruit, and just little tiny snacks throughout the day is enough to keep you going to the next campground.
Right. And I know for us, and again, if we're talking about travel day, and for a lot of people, it's already a dreaded time, travel day. For Dan and I said, look, if we're going to be doing this, every time we have to travel can't be dreaded. We've got to make it fun. And I think it has helped because we have those snacks, we have the kinds of foods that, just kind of make us happy, for lack of a better term. Like I'll have some chocolate and things that, I enjoy. And that's what's nice about the program that you have us on. There's not, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. Don't. There are a lot of things that I enjoy that I can eat. So that was a big thing, is making sure that we were eating or snacking on something every couple hours, which was counterintuitive to the idea of me wanting to lose weight.
Yeah. So, when we cut calories, of course, we're going to lose a certain amount of weight, but eventually you're going to hit that plateau that all of us are familiar with. And the big key to losing weight and maintaining it and making this sustainable, so you're not having that yo-yo effect, you want to keep your metabolism burning. And in order to do that, your body needs fuel, just like your RV. You're going to reach a certain point. If you don't gas up or fuel up, you're going to stall out, correct? So
Right.
Just like your body, having, making those little pit stops, having those little snacks is going to keep your body and your metabolism burning and running. And your brain will actually feel safer losing the weight because you're not putting yourself in a starved state. I call it like famine mode. Yes, you will lose weight, but eventually that becomes an issue to your brain. That's a survival issue. So then you'll stall out and you will not lose the weight. So if you're on the road and you have an active lifestyle, you want to make sure that you're constantly fueling yourself. And that could just look like maybe a snack of like 100 calories, some cheese, some fruit. It doesn't have to be a meal.
And that just reminds me of, in this lifestyle, preparation is really, really important on travel days, on days that maybe you're going for a hike, those types of things. In a Class A RV, for those of you Class A people, well, you could just go back to your refrigerator or your sink and do whatever while you're driving down the road. So you don't have to prepare as much as somebody that's in a fifth wheel or a travel trailer, because, those people need to think about what they're going to do, how long they're going to be driving. And you talked about, keeping that energy up and snacking all the time. You carry around stuff all the time. Patty carries around stuff all the time. And I just steal the stuff that you guys carry around because I just don't plan that much. But talk about the importance of, keeping that metabolism up.
Yeah. So you mentioned food prep. So, if you know that you're going to be traveling, if you have the option, grill some chicken the day before or a few days before and slice it up. That way you're getting the protein. And we all know to lose weight, we have to increase your protein. Protein also helps you not be as hungry. I know you guys can't be stopping, every hour. So increasing your protein, making, deviled eggs, having a lot of fruit. The fruit will help you, again, boost more energy, and your metabolism and your body loves it. Another thing that some of my clients who travel, they love salty things. So doing things like olives or pickles, these are really quick, really fast, really easy things to snack on. And your metabolism will love it. Your brain will love it. And for those of you who try this and stay fueled, like having a snack every hour or every few hours, you'll notice that maybe you'll start to lose tension in the body. So for those of you who are driving long hours and you have back pain, knee pain, maybe you're feeling like you have to go to the bathroom a lot. These are all signs that your body is under stress and it's begging for either a better quality food source or it just needs a little bit more. I have worked with retired athletes in the past, and I work with office workers, and I work with people who travel a lot and they're in the cars or in their RVs. And it was interesting. Retired athletes and people who have to sit long hours, the injuries were very similar, if not the same. There was always hip issues, lower back issues, knee issues. And my first thing that I go to is your nutrition. You have to start fueling yourself so your body can heal and repair. So, some people might think, oh, I'm just sitting in my RV, I'm just driving. But for you, Dan, I'm always impressed hearing these stories of, you have to make sure that little car on the road is not going to cut you off. You have to make sure that, you're not going to miss the exit. There's so much that your brain has to be engaged in at all times and keep you alive in that moment while you're driving. So fueling yourself with good quality foods is how you keep that endurance up and repair at the same time. So when people start fueling themselves, they start to notice that maybe that knee pain starts to go away, that stiffness they feel actually improves when they keep themselves fueled better.
I could hear all of your excitement, and this is what Dan and I, it's really what Dan and I, when you talk and you're so passionate and your reason for doing, being a health coach and working with people. So what I want to do right now is ask, and we're not done. We have some more great tips, but I know you're willing to offer our listeners a free consultation. So how can they get in touch with you if what you're saying interests them and they think they might want to learn more? How can they get in touch with you?
So just going on my Instagram, and that's Jen for True Health. So Jen, Jenn, and it's the literal number 4, True Health. Jen for True Health. If you just go to my bio, there's a link and you can actually schedule and book a free consultation with me. Another way is through my email, jennifer@truehealth.com.
Okay. And we're going to put that in the show notes. So those of you who want to learn more, just have that conversation, see if this is a good fit for you. All of that information will be in the show notes, as well as I'm going to put in the show notes. Now we talked about eye drills. You're going to do a video, right? For our listeners, you're going to do a video that we will put on our social media channels, RV Life Podcast, Instagram and Facebook. And Jen will have a video of eye drills that you could do while you have that travel day, so you're not getting fatigued.
I got to tell you, they just work. I swear by those things. They are absolutely incredible. Now, I have one last thing before we have to end this podcast. I know, and I know this as a fact of life, that when I pull into a truck stop or a gas station and I go inside and I get a little snack, the absolute best snack that I can get in the entire world is a Snickers bar.
I don't know if I agree with you on that one.
Probably not, right?
Right.
Can you tell us some better options than the Snickers bar?
Yes, I can. So beef jerky is wonderful. It's low in fat. You can get your protein. A lot of gas stations will offer pickles, juice. There's even sparkling water. Sparkling water is wonderful. It increases CO2. So if you're feeling tired and sluggish and your eyes are getting heavy, get some sparkling water. It's a great way to boost your energy there. Pretzels are wonderful. You can get salt in. A lot of them, like the Sorrento brand, it's actually a really good brand, and you can find that in gas stations for like cheese and dried fruit and things like that.
That is great. Way better options. And I'll just make sure I play this back if Dan wants that Snickers bar when he goes into the truck stop. And I yes. And I know that we could probably talk for an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 longer. Unfortunately, we have to come to a close, and we just want to thank you so much for your time and the information that you provided today. Thank you for being on the RV Life podcast.
I loved it. Thank you for having me.
You're listening to the RV Life podcast. Right after the break, we've got Patrick Buchanan with the RV Trip Wizard tip of the week. We also have the question of the week from one of our campers that we run into, or one of our listeners. If you have a question, send it to us on social media and we will call you up. We'll put your voice on the podcast and get your questions answered. We'll be back right after this.
National Indoor RV Centers with over 1,000 motorhomes available across multiple locations. National Indoor RV Centers continues to provide an outstanding hassle-free motorhome ownership experience. National Indoor is the #1 Newmar dealer in the nation and also features brands like Integra, Winnebago, and much more. Visit nirvc.com and become a part of the National Indoor RV Centers family.
Why end your camping season when it gets cold? With the inflatable RV skirting system from Air Skirts, you could extend your camping season year-round. Reach out to Jim and his team by visiting airskirts.com for more information. RV Life podcast listeners get $100 off a kit order when you use code RVPOD. That is RVPOD for $100 off.
You're listening to the RV Life podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, and we are here just having so much fun. Let's talk about that last commercial. Air Skirts, Jim and his team at Air Skirts, they're just great people.
I really wish I had the Air Skirts on the RV last week. We moved it to Florida thinking it would be just fine in the weather, but it turns out it was 27 degrees for 3 days straight. So having those Air Skirts on would have been a great idea.
It really would have been. But I want to talk a little bit about a new product that they introduced at the Hershey RV show back in August or July or August, something like that. But I got to tell you, it is just incredible. It is an inflatable cooler. And it keeps stuff cold. I don't know how it works, but I got to tell you, it just works.
They tell us once you inflate it and you inflate this cooler, we'll put it in our social media so you could see what we're talking about, but you inflate it and the air lock system, I guess, keeps the stuff cold. I don't know how it works. We've used it and we love it. The best part is deflating it, putting it in its little carry bag and easily storing it in the RV. That's my favorite part.
It really is great. So head over to the RV Life Podcast Facebook page or the RV Life Podcast Instagram page. We'll throw some pictures and descriptions of this thing up here and show you how you can get a hold of one if you want one. But I got to tell you, this might be one of my top 3 products that we bought for the RV.
It really is something to check out. We are loving it. Now, let's recap on today. We've been working with Jen for many years, and she's actually become a great friend. The tips she gave today are so valuable. There is a video on our Instagram page, RV Life Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, where she actually shared an eye drill like she was talking about in the interview. Thank you, Jen.
Now, I'm going to say from personal experience, Jen started me on these eye drills, I'm going to say about 3 years ago.
and I was in a recovery mode. I'm going to tell you that those eye drills have changed my life. They really, really do work to reconnect your brain to some of the parts of the bodies that just weren't working the way they used to.
It's all very scientific, and she's great at explaining, but I just know it works. And Jenna's been a big help for me and the health issues that I've had. And working on the mindset piece of things has been, I think, the biggest thing.
Well, it's time now for our sponsors, RV Life Pro Tip of the Week with Patrick Buchanan.
When planning a trip in RV Life Trip Wizard, we sometimes need to change the order of our campground stays or other stops in the trip menu. The easiest way to do this is to drag and drop the stops by pressing and holding the series of dots on the left side of each stop. These drag indicators can be described as looking like braille, stacked dice, dominoes, or even a cribbage board. You can easily reorder your stops up and down by using these drag dots. It's that simple. I'm Pat Buchanan with your RV Life Pro Tip of the Week.
This feature on the RV Trip Wizard is probably one of my favorite. Now, the reason being, Dan and I have all this planning that we do. We plan, we set our trip up, and within a day, sometimes two, things change. So we actually, instead of calling what we're doing plans, we call them our current thought, because a current thought often changes, and that's what happens with our plans. With this RV Trip Wizard feature, it helps us quickly and easily change, our trip in the RV Trip Wizard system. It's a breeze.
And as we move ourselves into Florida this January, February, and part of March, we have literally changed our plans no less than 9 or 10 times. And moving all of these things around, it just makes everything so easy. Now, today's question of the week. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been cut off? Have you ever been driving down the road and somebody drives by you at 90 miles an hour and it scares the heck out of you? Have you ever had somebody cut you off one side or the other and you sit in your car and you yell and you scream and you holler? Well, that's what today's question of the week is.
I'm from Connecticut. My name is Pat Sisson, and I'm a full-time RVer. Where you're doing 55 miles an hour with your pull-behind camper, and people are pulling up on you, cutting you off, and they're irate, and I know I'm doing the speed limit. What would you do in that case when the people freak out and cut you off and stuff when you're in your RV tow-behind camper?
Well, we drive a Class A. We have been cut off. We're towing a car. We are 40 feet long, and we have been cut off many times. And I'm going to say, I don't know that there's any really great answer except thinking about your mindset. Like we've been talking about, sometimes we just have to, maybe you say, oh, fill in the blank, and you kind of vent, but then being able to let it go, because I don't honestly think there's anything more we could do instead of smile and wave and wish that person well.
This topic has been a pet peeve of mine for quite a while. And I've been saying, 55 is the new 80, because it just doesn't seem like anybody goes the speed limit anymore. And a lot of us really shouldn't be going much faster than the posted speed limit, especially if you're towing and you have a great big vehicle. So I think the best advice that we can give here, and it's actually advice that I asked a police officer about, and his answer to me was, just be you. Don't let whatever is going on around you affect your mindset so much that you then go and do something stupid.
And I think that's a great idea. And I'll say this takes practice, and especially for Dan, because he was the kind of person that would get very agitated, even being in a car when he was being cut off and that kind of thing, or gets up behind somebody going super slow. So it does take time and practice, but I think it's very important, especially for those of us in RVs, no matter what kind it is. It's an important thing to be able to stay calm.
Now, I'm not going to let this go. I think that one way that you can get over that quick rage that you had when somebody just cut you off and you slammed your brakes on, you got your car back in order and you're ready to go. I think reaching over and grabbing a Snickers bar might be the best thing that you could do right there.
As Jen and I already told you, that is not the best thing to grab when you need a snack.
I'll tell you what, though, having those snacks in the vehicle and keeping, as Jen talked about, keeping fueled up instead of waiting until you're so hungry that you have to eat right then, it has really, really made a difference in, I think, in my metabolism and the way that I approach things.
Absolutely, because we all know what it means to be hangry. And actually, that's part of the Snickers commercial, right? So, look, as Jen would say, if you are absolutely craving a Snickers bar, every once in a while, go ahead and eat one. But I find by us having snacks that are better for us, as she said, fruit, beef jerky, cheeses, and she'll, even for us, we eat dark chocolate, which I love my chocolate. I think having those other snacks really helps not to get hangry and to not miss the Snickers bar.
Now, I want to ask a question of everybody that is listening to this podcast right now. And it doesn't matter when you're listening to the podcast. Do you have a first aid kit in your rig? I think it's one of the most important things that you need to have. And next week, we're going to have an expert talk to us about not only having a first aid kit, but what you need to have in that first aid kit.
This man we have on next week is amazing. He is an expert in his field. He is a nurse on the highest level I think you could possibly be on. And the information that he gave us when we were starting out has been absolutely invaluable. I can't wait to have him on next week.
It's just really great. So we are coming to the end of our show today. Go over to our social media, Facebook, Instagram. Get over there and take a look at what we have going on. You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, saying have a great rest of today.
And an even better day tomorrow.